Hey, oh, God, something's in my throat. Oh, hey guys, welcome. Sorry about that. Welcome to the show. Subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you guys for the support. I am on Cameo just in time for the holidays. I don't know when this is going to come out. Thanksgiving, maybe, with my track record. Uh, but yeah, book me on Cameo. Keep supporting me. We've got some dates at keithreza.com. I'm headlining the Rec Rooms Friday, September 1st. Get tickets at www.recroomhb.com. I'm trying to sell it out early because if I sell it out, I'm more than likely going to film my new special there as a secret, which I'm announcing only on the podcast today. So get your tickets. Only if I sell it out, though. If not, I'll probably just do stand up. But we got a great guest today. I'm a lone ranger. Victor Pacheco won't be here. Alan Lee won't be here. But my guest will be here. I'm a big fan of this guy. I've been, when the pandemic happened, we were coming back. We were doing a lot of outside shows and stuff. And this guy was on, I would say 80% of the shows I was on during this time. And I just fell in love with him. He's a great stand-up. You guys have probably seen him in Two Broke Girls. You've heard him on Black Dynamite, the TV show. Uh, he's amazing. He's a great comic, and I'm excited to talk to him. Jonathan Kite will be here via Zoom, and we'll be raging. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Support the podcast, guys. I'm trying to get the Apple Podcast and the Patreon and Spotify and iTunes all connected. I probably should have done this at the beginning when I first started podcasting, but I didn't know how and I was too lazy to even figure it out. But it's really, really important. So subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. Honest feedback. If you like it, tell us you like it. If you don't like it, tell us why you don't like it. Everything helps and everything helps us improve. So thank you guys so much for the support and enjoy Reza Riffs with Jonathan Kite.
You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Hey,
up, dude?
Jonathan.
What's going on?
Not much. How are you?
Good. Just in the middle of a work day.
Oh, yeah. I love work days.
I mean, bro. I mean, I today with the strike.
Yeah.
You know, it's nice that there's a little something going on. What's going on with you?
Nothing. I just had a day job work day, and then trying to find a gig tonight. But the highlight is interviewing you.
Oof. I'm sorry.
What? Don't be sorry. I've been trying to get you forever, and I'm so glad I finally got you. So thank you, man.
I'm here, dude. I'm here. Sorry, I'm just moving around. I live in a very old building, and it's old for LA, so it was built in the 90s. No, I live in a very old building, and the computer doesn't get Wi-Fi. Like, I was doing a press tour for this project that I was on, and it was like for Netflix, and it was like they needed it to go. It kept going out because the walls are so thick that I'm sitting in front of the router right here on my laptop right here, and they're like, we can't hear you. It's like it was like a weird, Star Trek thing where we're getting bombed by Klingons and the message doesn't come through. And I was just like, oh my God, like it was so embarrassing. But I mean, so I'm on my phone. I know we're not recording audio, but I mean, I know we're only recording audio, but I thought let me know if it doesn't come through. If there's like something bad, let me know and I'll fix it, obviously.
No, you're good. But were you worried that like during this whole Netflix prep tour when your Wi-Fi was going out, were you worried, oh my God, am I going to get fired because I don't have good Wi-Fi?
I mean, it was 2020, so like I felt like people were a little bit more forgiving. Because don't you remember like before the pandemic, I feel like people were just like anytime something went wrong, like people were just like instantly pissed.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like that great Louis C.K. joke, where the guy's like, I can't get Wi-Fi. And he's like, you're sitting in a chair in the sky. Like, but then I think people got, but it's true. I think that joke resonated so much because people would just flip out. And I feel like now, with people being on Zoom, like people are way more forgiving because we all had to put up with it. Like
Right.
even people that have assistants that like sort of dole that responsibility out to like lemmings or underlings and shit, they all had to be on Zoom too. And they're like, this is terrible. And you're like, I know, that's what we've been trying to tell you the
Yeah.
entire time. So we all became a little bit more forgiving.
Assistants sucked though, because like right when the pandemic happened, the assistant had to teach everybody how to do this stuff because we had to stay away.
I had this old manager, and he's dead to me, so I can talk about him. He's not dead, but to me, this motherfucker, he didn't learn. Like, here's the thing. I'm not good at like TikTok, and I am exactly my age, right? And so I'm
Yeah.
43. So I'm like pretty good with Instagram. I'm is this my manager now?
Oh, do you need to take
You
it?
know what? Can you hold on? This is
Yeah, yeah.
I think this
Let me pause it and we'll take
pause it. I'm so sorry.
Dude,
Give
don't
me
worry about it.
1 second. 1 second.
All right.
Now this is
Can you
see,
hear
this
me
is the
now?
only problem with the mobile device is that it's it it won't once you like take it off speaker, which I didn't mean to do.
Uh-huh.
1 second.
I could hear you.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So no, it's like it's just different. Could you wait? Could you hear my phone call?
No.
Oh no, it was just someone from the office that I told him I'd call him back. The thing
Okay.
is, the funniest thing is, and you probably obviously I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I thought it was maybe Pablo. I thought it was my manager or Pablo because it's no caller ID. Because some people
That's
in my
how he
life,
calls people.
I know, but there's a lot of people that are like that for me, where they know it's me and I know it's them, but for whatever reason, it's their own business. It's always no caller ID. So I was like, is this him?
Yeah.
But no, this old manager, like I'll start the story over again. I'm exactly my age, so I do the thing that I think is easier for me that I learned when I was younger. And obviously, like I'm trying to get better at TikTok and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like this guy never learned anything on the internet. And it was like, come on, dude, like he wasn't even like that old. If he was like a Civil War soldier, I could be like, maybe I get it. Like you're having a tough time with the telegraph or like some shit. But it's like this guy was like a modern guy who just like did not want to learn the internet.
Right.
And it was killing us.
Was he still on AOL?
I'm not kidding you. I think he might have been. I think he was on Lycos.
Oh my God.
No. I'm
That's like Ask Jeeves.
I was just gonna say I would tell him Google how to do that. He's like, what's that? I'm like, ask Jeeves. He goes, I got it. Now he's like, now you're speaking my language. No, but that's the thing. What we do is obviously with comedians, the art adapts. We're so good at adapting the art, right? Like if as soon as something comes out, if you have a joke about it, you try it, right? And it works or it doesn't work. And yet we realize that now our way of distributing what we do needs to evolve as well.
Right.
And I just think that, and obviously there's some comedians that are, as with anything in this world, there are some people that are better at it than not. And I am trying very hard to get better at it, but it's just not something that's it doesn't come easy to me. Like social media, it's not something that I and I don't even enjoy it. Like I'd much rather a face-to-face person or like get on the phone, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I find because I have Asperger's, so I find social media to be very frustrating for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I like I agree with you. Like I think in studio interviews are better, but I think like with the pandemic, everyone is just relying on Zoom. You know what I mean?
It became the thing that we had never heard of before.
Right.
It had been around forever.
Zoom did? Yeah.
Yeah. But not forever, but it had been around. And then it's suddenly something that we couldn't have lived without. The funny thing is, I think about the war, the Second Great War, about where London was just getting bombed
Right.
and people couldn't communicate. Like we have mental health issues because of COVID or whatever, and maybe we always had them and they're just being exacerbated. But you got to think like if you were living in Europe, you didn't know if your people survived
That's
until
true.
the
Yeah.
war was over. And so I think about all these people who like couldn't have an internet connection, and it's like I was imagining like children in a bomb shelter just reading books, and like I mean, whereas like somebody was like, oh, there's nothing on, or like I can't even go outside. Hold on, I gotta get DoorDash. You know what I mean? Like people would be like always. It's like it's so funny that that's just us as a species. No matter how easy, because right, it's like the easiest time that we've ever lived is right now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I tried to write a bit about it, but it didn't. Maybe it was just like me, not even upset. I love old things. Like I love Downton Abbey, and I love like all those old merchant ivory things, but they're not realistic. Like if somebody got a splinter, it could have killed them, or like if
Right.
they got an infection, or if you had to go to the doctor, it's like the guy was like 10 towns over. It was like your entire
You had to
journey.
do a drive. Yeah.
Or a train, a drive. What are we talking about? Billionaires here? What are we talking about? Rockefeller? They'd have to take a pack mule or a train to get, I mean, that's, it's crazy to think that how easy everything comes to us today. And yet we still all can find as comedians, but as people, like reasons to bitch and things to bitch about. It's so funny.
Yeah, you know what else is kind of getting me irritated is everywhere I go, everyone wants a tip. You know what I mean? Because like when I grew up, it was all about service and then maybe valet parker, but now it's like everybody, the guy at the Gap store wants a tip. It's
We literally talked about this on my podcast yesterday. We do the end segment called Oy Vey of the Day.
uh-huh.
And it was about the restaurant tip culture. And part of that, again, I think went to COVID, where people were tipping more, being more generous in general, even if, I mean, obviously it used to be like 10% and then 15% and then 20%. But then in COVID, people were like, oh, this DoorDash woman, like, this is awesome. I'm going to tip her more because she's putting her life on the line. And maybe she's the only thing that can keep her, a roof
Yeah,
over
yeah.
her head.
That's all she has, yeah.
Right. But now I was in Austin a couple weeks ago doing some gigs, and I took a taxi cab, which I hadn't taken in years. And the guy has, they have like the sheet or the iPad that says like 18, 20, 22%. His started at 34%.
Oh my God. That's just robbery.
Bro, that's insane. I was like, what are you going to do for that money?
Yeah. That's
I'm
just
like, I'll tip you 34%, but like and I didn't, and I was like, but I did not. But here's the thing, I was a server forever, right? So I understand the value, but also like restaurants fucking suck because now they're adding 20%, not gratuity, service charge, which you're like, my buddy went to a restaurant and he said, well, what's the service charge for? And then the manager goes, well, it's to like help pay the staff. And it's like, that's your job.
right.
Am I a part owner of this restaurant now? Like, this is
If so, you're
insane.
fucking fired.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, exactly. And is this a Kickstarter? Is this what my GoFundMe 20% goes to? I'm now a part owner at this fucking dive bar. Like, what are you? I just think that is so insane because then the guy goes, "Oh, well, you can tip on top of that," and I go, "So hold on. If the meal's
Thank you.
$100, yeah, like so if I want the server to get all of it, well, how much does the server get of that? It's to pay the bussers, the kitchen staff. It's like, bro, who is your accountant? I mean, this is the best pyramid scheme I've ever heard.
Yeah. Actors and comedians should get that too. Like, when you film something after a studio, it'd be like, okay, now if you could just tip the actors through your, iPad or whatever.
They do that for stand-up.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a great idea. If you thought this guy or girl was funny, tip them, Venmo, that's a cool thing. But to add, could you imagine if you bought a ticket to the Improv, to the show we did the other night, and then they were like, oh, the tickets are like, what, $30 or whatever? And then they were like, but what's this $10? Like, oh, that's a service charge, which
Yeah.
they do for ticketing. But then you go, but if you want to tip the comedians on top of everything, you're going, well, then why don't you just give them that service charge? Because I was at a terrible restaurant years ago where they would use our tips to pay the management.
Jesus.
Which is illegal. It's totally illegal. It's a scam. But it's like, but I think that people just sort of, there's this new thing where it's like if you're not tipping 1,000%, and I've always tipped 25 to 30. My mom was a waitress in college. It helped put her through school. I was a server for many, many, many years. I've always tipped this way. I learned from my mother, but then I knew that money was at least going to the server. But to then have a 20% extra, like, who's the middleman? This is like mafia tax.
Exactly. Yeah. And like you wonder, maybe sometimes it's better to just be in the middle because maybe they're making more of the money. You know what I mean?
And they don't have to put up with the customer.
Yeah, definitely.
When I remember I would, you get told lies all the time, but because Cheesecake Factory was like, that's where I worked forever, is a corporate thing. So their sort of model was to always, it was one of those, the customer's always right. And we would have to like listen to people lie to us and then be like, oh, you're right. And then I'd be like, all right, now how do we justify that? Just because they would come in and try to get free shit all the time.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to, instead of being like, I think you're thinking of another restaurant, or maybe that was a different thing, you had to be like, oh, yes, I get it. And
that's where the service, now we know, this is where the service fee comes to pay for these fuckers.
Dude, well, that's the thing. But also for me, for putting on the performance of a lifetime, I should get more, instead of being like, what are you talking about, you insane idiot? Like, people would tell me they would get things there. And I worked for the company for not a long time, like 5 years or whatever. But they would be like, no, I got this here before.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to, it's like that old Family Guy joke where he's like, I'll take a shepherd's pie. And the guy goes, we don't have shepherd's pie. And then he goes, well, you have this, you have this, you have this, you have this, you have this. And he names everything. And he goes, well, then you have a shepherd's pie. So that was their attitude at Cheesecake Factory, where I remember this one guy was like, well, I got this thing here. I'm going, I've worked here for such a long, there's no way you ever got this here. And I think we gave it to him. Like, we had to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because we were so afraid that this asshole was going to troll us for not believing his bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, that's where we're at.
This was probably before cell phones too, where like someone could like tweet a bad review or something, right?
But Yelp existed.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, but we couldn't just Google it. Like, I wanted to just like take my phone and be like, oh, really? Because Ask Jeeves says you're full of shit. Like, I just think that's, and it's really crazy because they go, well, they did it for me. And there were certain people that had been coming in for so many years that they had a special relationship with the manager where they would make them something that we didn't carry at the restaurant.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, okay, when this guy comes in, you know who he is. Like, just tell me, I'll go over, I'll put it in the computer. I'm like, what is this made to order shit? I love how these like trolls are turning Cheesecake Factory into a private chef.
Right.
It's like, you gross asshole. Like, go. By the way, they weren't asking for like Martian, chicken meat. It's like they were asking for things that existed, but they were sold at other restaurants. Like, the balls on people to go to Burger King and be like, I'll have a Frosty. Well,
Right.
they'll get it for me. And then they have to send out some poor kid to like run across town or drive across town to get you a fucking Wendy's Frosty. It's like, just go to Wendy's, you piece of shit.
Right. Exactly. Um, so Jonathan, I wanted to ask you, when did you, because I think you're so good at impressions and like,
Thanks.
we were talking in the green room where you could do over 100. Where did you like learn? Because I only could do two, and that's not something I learned. That's just something, we were talking about when you hang out with people, you just get it. But
Yeah.
so like, how did you like wanted to do impressions in your act?
I didn't really want to. I did I really liked growing up. I really loved, Saturday Night Live and in Living Color and stuff. And so I sort of did characters, I guess. But then when you audition for those shows, they go, can you do impressions? And I actually auditioned for this one that was on USA. It was Frank Caliendo's show. Is that right? Maybe not. This was like, I'm talking about
Oh, the
years
the
ago.
impressional one that he had, right?
I think so. I never.
Right.
I don't know. If, I don't even know if I ever saw it. But they asked. They were like, "Hey, Frank is the lead." No, what? It was called like It was called like Caliendo Show or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm
I know
lying.
what you're talking about. I don't know the name, but yeah.
So they said, "Can you come in and do guys that he doesn't do?" And so I went in there, and my manager was like, "This could be a cool thing." This was years and years ago. And I said, so I did a couple of impressions, and they probably like weren't. They were probably like lame. And then what for the most part, I had heard that if you audition for Saturday Night Live, you send in a tape, and then like 4 months later they call you in if they like you or whatever, you showcase or how. And so I thought, oh, I'll just, they go, can you do any other impressions? And I was like, yeah, I can do these people. And I lied and I couldn't do those people. But I thought, oh, if they like me, I'll have like a month or two to learn them. And they were like,
Yeah.
great. The callback is Monday with the producers. And this was like Friday night. I was like, I'm talking about like 5 o'clock on a Friday. And I'm going, why? And there's like, this is the last round. And so I had to go home, and I remember I went to the DVD store. This is how long ago this was. And
Yeah.
I bought Fred Claus on DVD, and I just watched it over and over and over and over again until I could learn Vince Vaughn. And that's like truly how I did it, because I sort of needed to. And I did Nicolas Cage, I did Obama, I did I think I didn't remember who the other people I did. And then it was cool, and they were, they weren't great, but at least it gave me what it did was it proved, I go, oh shoot, you can do this.
Right.
Like, which was really cool. And then I went, and then I just they said that they were going to do a new and living color with Jamie Foxx was executive producing, and Jamie is one of my idols. And so I was like, oh my God, I got to be in this. And they were like, well, you have to do impressions more than characters. Like, you can do characters, but they're really looking for a white guy who can do impressions.
So you could be
And
like the Jim Carrey of today.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
for whatever they were looking for. And I did it, and I just tried to learn as many impressions as I could, and it went great. And I wound up, they hired a couple of white guys, but it was a super fun opportunity. And from that moment on, I was like, oh, maybe I can do this. And I'd always wanted to get into stand up. And so I thought, I love Robin Williams. Like, he's somebody that really, besides Jamie, who obviously does impressions like as good as anybody, but guys like Jamie Foxx and Robin Williams, they really inspired me when I was growing up. And I just thought it really feels like when you're watching them, it's limitless.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not. And Pablo, obviously our mutual friend, Pablo, I first started opening for him, and he never even met me, but I was inspired truly by guys like that, where it was just like, I'm not even sure they know what they're going to say when they get on stage. And the audience can feel that. And it's not only incredibly respectful, I respect it so much, and I'm impressed by it. It's also just so fucking fun to me, like to just get up there and watch. And, I've heard, you know, I've heard those guys most of their stuff, and I never get bored. You know,
Yeah.
even if you like know the material and you know what impressions they can do, it's like a magician who's just pulling tricks out of a bag.
No, definitely. And like Pablo, he's so great. Like he's really, I open up for him now, and he's really saved my career. Like
Wow.
him and Paul Rodriguez, because when Norm died, I had nothing. You know what I mean? Like no bookers would want anything to do with me. And then Saget took care of me, but then Saget passed, and so
Yeah.
Pablo. I've always been friends with Pablo, and Pablo just said, "Hey, come open up
Well,
for me."
shit. I hope Pablo doesn't die.
Yeah, no. He asked me after David Arnold, but so the three curse is over. But
Yeah,
Pablo's,
you do them all. They call you the angel of death. You're like, I used to open for Louis Anderson. Um, yeah, dude.
no,
Uh,
but that. How do you now? What do you think about like child impressions, like a Macaulay Culkin or something? Have you ever like tried doing stuff like that?
my voice. I feel like the question. I don't get asked to do children. They go, can you do women? But I think in like today's culture, number one, it's like my voice is so deep. I could maybe do B. Arthur
Right.
or or somebody like that. But it's like it just sounds insulting. It just sounds like I'm doing
Yeah.
like, hey, it just sounds degrading. But it's not, and also it's not really it's not in, I mean I probably could learn like a Kathy Griffin or something, but I try to do impressions of, and I like Kathy Griffin. This is not a comment on her, but I'm saying I like to do impressions of people that I admire or that I am passionate about.
Right.
Because it's like you have to, if you're going to learn a new impression, or if like a new impression comes to you and you want to make it better, you really have to think about it, and it lives like rent free in your brain, right? And
Right.
so politically, like I used to do Rush Limbaugh for years, and I wasn't a fan of his, even though I do think he was charismatic as hell. And I think Trump is charismatic as hell. I'm not a Trump fan, but I admire his ability to bullshit, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. He's kind
And
of like a
so,
comic, though. Like he has that skill where, like, maybe he
yeah.
wasn't the best president, but he was a good speaker. By some of the stuff he says was funny, and he didn't know it was funny. You know what I mean?
Well, I think comics are sales people.
Yeah.
We are selling you on an idea. That's exactly what politicians do. It's like an idea that you
But they have
go,
no sense of humor.
well, it's funny. It's so funny because now it's like rock stars. I love when a rock star like tries to do banter in between the songs. And it's like, and some of them are great at it. Some of them you're just like, God damn, this guy could be touring right now, not, without the instruments. But he can open for himself. But then you get like, it's some of these politicians. I mean, I think that America doesn't have a, I shouldn't say that. I think people expect that our politicians won't have a sense of humor, enough of the population, where when you see them really come out of their shell, whether the jokes are written for them or not is not important. But you look at Dark Brandon when Biden did it at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, or Obama. Dude, Obama crushed when
Yeah.
he did the White House Correspondents'. And the thing is, I'm sure Obama has an unbelievable sense of humor.
Yeah.
But I think that people kind of go, "Oh, you're making jokes." Well, there are children who are slaves in China, or the Uyghurs are slaves or whatever. It's like people go, "Oh, you can't make jokes as long as the world is still on fire." And if
Right.
I have a problem with the world, it's like people are so weird. And I think because politicians, like, we're lucky, right? People pay to see us or whatever. Maybe they go to the Improv the other night. They think they'll see a good show, and they see us, and hopefully we get a good show. But a politician's like, I need your votes.
Right.
So if anyone says, I do think that Trump's fans maybe not have a good sense of humor about Trump, like it making fun of him, but they do have a good sense of humor because Trump does make a lot of jokes.
Yeah, that's
Now,
what I was saying. Yeah.
so it's like, but his fans don't have, but they are like him. They only like his brand of humor.
Right. Yeah.
or like, and certainly, his fans are, that's what it feels like, right? That he can get out there and say something and be like, the blacks love me. I love I love the blacks love me. And then there'll be a black guy next to him. I'm like, see, there's one here. There's always one here. It's, it's like it's like a Tamagotchi. I take him everywhere. I gotta feed this guy, it's like, this is my Pokemon. And it's like whatever. It's like people, but then they think that's funny, which listen, who am I to say what's funny and not funny?
Right.
But but I think that like certain politicians are held to a different standard, or it's like their comedy is like so cheesy because they're trying to not, it's like they're trying to show that they have a sense of humor instead of be funny.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
it's like that sucks too.
Yeah. Well, Jonathan, I have 4 questions for you that I want, it's because like usually I like to listen to other podcasts, so I don't ask the same questions, but since it was a 2 day, it's kind of hard. So if I ask something that you've been asked, I apologize.
Oh, I don't care. It's fine.
Oh, but I wanted to ask you, like, when you filmed The Bellman, how was it working with Richard Kind? Like, because I think he is fantastic.
He's one of the best people. We became really good buds on that. I never met him before. I love him so much. And we, he was there to golf.
Yeah.
He was in the movie, but like he was like, I'm gonna go, and golf the whole time. I do not want to be here. And he was always like, he's so funny because he has the same sort of thing. Like the energy about him is like he's always doing good, but I feel like he'd always rather be golfing.
Yeah.
Like no matter what he's doing. And so we would get breakfast every morning, and he would, and I'm like, oh, how many scenes today? He goes, I only have 3 scenes today. Or 2 scenes today. I'm so excited. I'm gonna go golf for the rest of the day. So, which by the way, I love that about him. And then he, we visit each other when we're in town, when I'm in New York or he's here, and he's as sweet as you hope he is.
Yeah.
That's what's so wonderful about him. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah. I totally believe that the golfing story, because like every year, I mean, I haven't since the pandemic, but every year I always help out my uncle's celebrity golf tournament. And
Yeah.
Richard Kind's always the celebrity there. And I've never met him because he's always just golfing.
Loves it, dude. And I love that he I love how he's one of those, he is like such a perfect level of success. He is, I think anybody who knows him loves him. He's certainly respected. He's got talent forever. And yet he's not like, people when they recognize him, they go, oh dude, but he's not hounded. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's been in the biggest stuff. I mean, the biggest stuff forever. And the idea that he's been working forever, but he still has a certain level of anonymity, I think is really, it can't be understated or overstated, excuse me. That that's such a cool thing that he gets. So I think that he's really living the dream.
Yeah, definitely. And then I wanted to ask you about Jennifer Coolidge, because now everybody loves her and wants her and her stuff.
Yeah.
But you worked with her a lot when she was struggling, where no one would probably want to, because she was just known as Stifler's mom. But now she's like a comic genius. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think she was always a comic genius. It's one of those things where with her, I mean, she's one of the most fascinating people I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. And, she's so, I think that a lot of times people come to LA to become someone, to leave something behind. And I think that she was already someone. Like, I don't think that she needed, I think that some people, the way they are is enough. And just her existing and being is so lovely and entertaining. And I think even in this business, and obviously she's proven that she can work forever. I mean, obviously, she even worked before American Pie, and she was in The Groundlings. But this whole business is a marathon. That It's like, it sometimes just takes one thing where people to kind of go, oh yeah, I've always liked her, or oh yeah, let's give her this. And it's like, and then of course it's sort of like Galinda from Wizard of Oz, like come out wherever you are. And now everyone's sort of coming out and being like, I've always been a Jennifer Coolidge fan. So people might have been fans, but they maybe weren't in projects. She wasn't in projects that people had seen, or it's also her choice. Like she's so successful, maybe she just didn't want to do it for a long time, and I know that she lived out of LA for forever, and then
Yeah.
maybe she's like, you know what, I feel something. I'm having a different energy right now. I'm going to go back and do it, and that is real talent to be able to like do it when you want to do it. I mean, that just goes to show how good and how much people really love her, that they will do it on her time and not on the studio's time.
When I first started doing stand-up comedy about, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago, I actually emceed for her at the Brea Improv. And I think a lot of people don't know that she used to do stand-up.
Yeah, very funny,
Yeah.
very funny, and just naturally one of the funniest people
Yeah.
in the world. Yeah.
And then I wanted to ask you because I know you probably can't talk about, but you just sold a movie that you wrote, and
Yeah.
I like to write scripts, so I was just wondering, from one writer to another, how many times did you rewrite this before you felt comfortable to pitch it?
So the idea, they came to me and said, "Will you write this movie?" And it took me about a month or so to do it because I was working on other stuff. I was doing another movie and a TV show, so it was like I had to find enough time because I had a deadline with it. So it was kind of nuts because they came to me and I was like, well, I can start it after I finish this movie and after I finish this TV show, and they're like, no, we need it now.
Okay.
So, and it came out of it because I had brought a film to them that I didn't write but was really passionate about, that a dear friend of mine wrote, who actually just sold this movie like 5 years ago or whatever, I can't remember. And that didn't wind up going through, but those people remembered me and they were like, hey, we want to do a movie like the one that you had pitched us before. Is there any way you could write it? But we have a deadline on it. So I wrote it, excuse me, very quickly, and not, I mean, relatively quickly, but it was like, okay. And then one day I woke up and I had like a come to Jesus moment, and I thought, this script sucks. And I essentially rewrote 70% of it in a week,
Wow.
which was really stressful. And I didn't sleep much at all. And it was really hard
Yeah.
on my nervous system because they were like, well, we already bought that other script. And I'm like, no, trust me, this one's going to suck. Let me write you a new one. So I essentially wrote them two movies for the price of one. And that script was way better.
Yeah.
Just like night and day. It was like, it was sort of that made the last script look like a joke.
Yeah.
And they were much, much, much happier. So sometimes, the pressure was cool to be able to see, because sometimes everybody in their head, right, it's like they're a hero. They would all, like, we all would have stopped 9/11, and it's like Mark Wahlberg said that right now in an interview. I'm not saying Mark Wahlberg wouldn't have done it, but he was like, did you hear him say that? He was like, if I was on the plane, I would have taken out those terrorists. You're like, maybe. I'm like, dude, by the way, God bless. If somebody can do it, it's probably Mark Wahlberg, right?
Right.
But you never know, right? Because we're all like the heroes of our own story. But it was cool because I like to think I'm good under pressure, and it was stressful at the time, but it was cool to be tested and be like, all right, this came out okay, like not bad. And it
Yeah.
went through more rewrites and shit and punch up, but I'm proud of it. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, because I feel a lot better on the rewriting process than the actual writing process. Because like when I would write with Norm, he would always say it has to be Sandler approved. So would always have to rewrite it for Sandler approved.
That is so funny, and I can hear him saying that.
Yeah, and then
That's funny.
I apologize. I have two more questions. This one's actually an easy question. Do you think it's easier to be interviewed by comedians or random folk?
Um, Honestly, I don't think it matters. I think I think it's more important if there is a chemistry between the two people more than anything.
Yeah,
I think it's
definitely.
like, that's what I think matters. I mean, there's plenty of comedians that are super funny people that maybe aren't good in dialogue, and vice versa. There's people in life you meet every day who aren't comedians, but they're just so good at throwing lob passes to comedians. You know what I mean? It's like it's cool when you meet somebody who's just, because obviously there's so many funny people in the world. Like comedians are just people that chose to do it professionally.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you meet people all the time where you're like, damn, that guy or that girl is so funny, and they sell insurance, and you're like, well, it's just different, you know. So it does, you know.
Selling shirts. And then my last question for you is if you could go back in time and talk to a younger version of yourself, what advice would you give yourself that you know now that everything's going to be okay for you?
I would say invest in Apple and and yeah, invest in Apple and don't don't drink so much.
Uh,
I don't have a drinking problem, but I just remember like thinking my 20s, like when I came out here, I just was like, because there wasn't social media. So if you wanted to go socialize with people, right, you'd have to
right.
go out. It was cool, but it was like it felt like I did that every day of for like 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad you said that answer and you didn't say, uh, don't do Keith Reza's podcast.
Oh, we could say a third thing. Okay, that no, no. You didn't say. I sorry. I thought it was limited. I don't know. I start fading away. I'm like, don't do what? Um,
uh,
uh, no, I would go back and I would warn Norm and Louis Anderson and Bob Saget that Keith, if he opens for you, it's the angel of death.
I never met Louis though, so
No, you never met him. That's so cool though. That's very that that's a nice thing that these people. I mean, that's really speaks to your reputation because I met Bob briefly once and I always admired him and that's cool that you have been that must be a good feeling that people who everybody respects and sort of look up to like respect you and want you to be a part of their career and their show.
yeah. I mean, I am very blessed on that, but you know,
That's awesome.
but on the worst side of it, I lost my best pals. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry for your losses. I wish I had met Norm. I never, I saw him, but like, I never got to meet him for whatever reason. It's like the world is so big. And even though it's such a small community, I literally met Bill Burr for the first time in March.
oh my God, really?
I couldn't believe it. And then I worked with him. He like wrote and directed this thing that I worked on that they cast me and we talked for a while and and it was beautiful and I love Bill and I've always been a big Bill Burr fan since I saw him do the HBO Young Comedian special and but with Norm and those guys it's like and I can't you and I we go out so much and see people live it's like always it makes me wish that I had gone out and seen Norm more, you know.
Well, well, I can tell you this, and you could take it for what it's worth, but in my opinion, I think Norm would have loved you
Oh wow.
because I
Thanks.
love you. I feel like I have a good energy with you, and
Absolutely.
I could just tell that I'm sure Norm would have loved you.
Thank you. That's so kind of you to say. I would yeah, I do feel like you and I have a good energy and it's nice. I mean, I always admired him for always sticking by his guns and I mean that you want to talk about a real guy who stuck up and kept it funny and not just like stepped up for political reasons but was able to sort of merge the two like I admire him so much.
Yeah. Uh, I'll tell you this quick story before we go, but I was asking him one time, like, because he was so not on the political sense because he was Canadian, so he didn't really care. So I was like, what news do you watch or whatever? And he's like, well, I like watching the one where they're all laughing, you know? I don't know. It was just,
I
I just
mean,
thought it's just funny when he was saying that.
but you know what? That's great about that is I'm sure that it's what's funny about him is his truth was funny.
Yeah.
He didn't have to manufacture it. That is funny. That he would want to watch news where people are laughing.
Yeah. Well,
That's
where can
good.
the folks at home follow and support you, Jonathan?
Oh, I have a podcast called At Kite Club podcast that's on everywhere you get podcasts. We do a new episode. It comes out every Thursday. And all my socials are at Jonathan Kite, JONATHANKITE. And yeah, I'm touring. I'll be around. I'll be at the Tempe Improv June 29 through July 2nd.
Oh, that'd be
And
cool.
yeah, it's gonna be fun. We're there for my buddies and I. The shows are gonna be amazing. I'm so pumped. I love that club. It's one of my favorite clubs to play. And I'm just excited. I'm gonna be on the road all summer.
Yeah, it sucks because I'm just gonna miss you at Tempe. I'm there the week before with TJ.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow, that's awesome. Those are gonna be great.
yeah. Maybe it's
He's
Stand Up Live. I think he's at Tempe though, but it's the
yeah,
same club basically.
Stand Up Live, Tempe, the Copper Blues Live.
Yeah, yeah.
Those
So,
are all. I think they're all owned by Maddie. Those are such good rooms, and I did a lot of comedy in the pandemic during the pandemic in Arizona, and just had a blast. I love. They got great crowds out there. Really fun people.
yeah. All right. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for riffing with me and doing my podcast. I really, really appreciate it, and I love you very much. So thank you.
Thank you, brother. Love you, brother. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me, and we'll talk soon, bud.
All right. Have a good day. I'll talk to you later.
Bye, bud.
Bye. All right, guys. That was an interview with Jonathan Kite. Subscribe, rate, review, and tell a friend.
You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.